It is, I have two distinct pleasures here today. My first is that I serve as a principal of Woodville Tompkins Technical and Career High School, located in the hostess city of the South, Savannah, Georgia. But my second distinct pleasure is that I am the final presenter for today. So between you and your way out of here. So I'm serving as a gatekeeper today. But my presentation actually starts back to our last opportunity to get together within our cohort. And during that time, we were on Zoom and we were posed with the question. And that question was, how are the children? And when I thought about this, it made me think about so many things. You know, as an educator, as a leader, you're thinking about, when you get posed a question like this, you're thinking, how are the children? What are you talking about? Like, how are they at the house? How are they in the neighborhood? We heard about stories about how students are even getting to school. What happens when they even step in the building? What am I doing to make sure that my children are safe? Because I've heard it so many times during our conversation today, they are our children. And so when I thought about that, I got this paralyzing fear, because in that moment, I didn't know how the children were. And it made me think back to my time growing up in Atlanta, DeKalb County, growing up, and I had this paralyzing fear of heights. I could not go places where there were heights. Even being here, I would have to keep a distance so I wouldn't go out and look out over that balcony because I would just be so scared. But it limited me in the things that I would do. There were certain places where I wouldn't go. There were certain activities that I wouldn't participate in. Just imagine being a kid growing up and never getting on a roller coaster. Being a kid and growing up and never going certain places because you didn't want to ride in that elevator because it had the window that overlooked this high rise and all these other things. Those were the fears that I had. And it was a paralyzing fear because, again, it prevented me from doing things. But I'm so grateful for my mom. My mom stood in and she knew that something needed to be done. So one day, me, my brother, and my sister, we're at home, and she comes in and she says, "Okay, guys, get in the car, we're going." And I was like, "Mama, I don't know where we're going. What are you talking about?" She packs us all up in the car and we drive to downtown Atlanta. We get out the car, we go in. She says, "Okay, guys, we're going in this hotel." I said, "Okay, Mom, sure, whatever." I'm following Mom. I trust her, right? I love my mom, right? Mama, if you see this, I love you, all right? But I love her, and so I trust her that she's gonna do the right thing by me. So we get in, we get on the elevator, and as we step on the elevator, you know, the elevator's just like any traditional elevator. There's a back there, everything's fine. But then all of a sudden, as we go up on this elevator, we start going up, and the doors kind of, the view changes. And it changes to a view like this. And now we're going up. And what I did not know was that it was 72 flights that we need to go up, 72 stories that we were going up. Because on the top of this ride was a restaurant called the Sundial, for those of you that are familiar with the Atlanta area, the Sundial restaurant. And the treat was, if AJ could make it to the top, we were gonna go to the Sundial restaurant. So no pressure. I'm looking at my brother and my sister, and they're like, we going to the Sundial. We don't know what they serving up there, but we going there to eat, so you better make it. So imagine me, a young kid, and I'm pressed up against the back because I don't wanna look out and look over. But as I'm doing that, my mom notices that. She reaches her hand down and she holds my hand. And in that moment, I get strength. And I take that one step out. Now, she's great, but she didn't have that kind of superpowers. I wasn't like leaning all over like this. But I took that step forward, and that step forward empowered me to do so many different things in my life. I finally overcame that fear and was able to do so much more. And so I think about that paralyzing fear and what it means for our students who are going into a math class. And this is probably the view that they have of a math class. They're going down this dark, deep tunnel, and at the end of it, somebody's back there going to talk to them about math. This is what they see. But math, and Algebra 1 specifically, has had this fear over a number of people, and for good reason. Algebra 1 is the course across the entire country that has the highest failure rate. No matter where you are, no matter your region, no matter your area, Algebra 1 has the highest failure rate. And if a student fails Algebra 1, they now have a 20% chance of graduating from high school. So we think about that on the academic side. So as you can imagine, when we get asked that question, how are the children, why I'm so concerned about math and how my students are performing. But then on the academic side, but now let's take a look at this on the financial side. Our world is changing so much. We're going to so much more of a digital age. Well, the United States government, they recognize that, and they gave $540 million in research for STEM and computer science education. But Algebra 1 serves as the gatekeeper for so many students getting into those fields. Just imagine walking in and a student so interested in computer sciences, but their Algebra 1 grades prevent them from getting there. Now we're talking about the financial stability of a family, of a community being impacted because of how a student performed in the 9th grade. So we knew we had work to do when we did that. We knew we needed to create a plan in order to address this very dire need of our students, but also within our community. So we enacted this plan where we took our Algebra 1 teachers and we met with them. We said, what can we do? They said, Mr. McGuire, we need more time. We need an opportunity to really talk and spend time with these students. So we changed things. We looked at our master schedule and we provided an additional math class for our students ahead of going into this Algebra 1 course. Well, it did a number of things. One, it gave the students the time that they needed. It gave the teachers the additional time that they needed. But because students are taking 2 math classes in a given year, now they're getting 2 credits. So now when it comes time on the other side, when we talk about graduation, when that transcript gets produced, now our students, instead of having the 4 prerequisite maths that they need, they now have 5. They have a stronger transcript. They present better to colleges and universities. And so in enacting this plan, we knew that we were going to come across some challenges. And so in these challenges, we knew that by devoting so many resources to Algebra 1, that was going to impact Algebra 2 and geometry. For those of you that have the true pleasure of working with master schedules, you know that if you add something over here, you got to take away something over here on the other side. So what that meant for our Algebra 2 and our geometry teachers was that your class sizes are going to increase because we're going to take some of these resources away. But everybody was on board because they knew that when we enacted this plan, when we dove into this work, that they were going to get a stronger student coming into their class. So they were okay with getting 3 or 4 more students if they knew that those 3 or 4 additional students were going to be stronger on the work that they would do. We also got through a little bit of a curveball because Georgia said, hey, you know what? We know that you like those math standards that you've been working on for the past couple of years. We're going to change it all up. We're going to give you something brand new. All right. So what that did was that impacted some of our accountability measures and things that we had put in place in order to track how our students were performing. But even with that, we still pressed through and we were able to see gains like this. Our students' Algebra 1 mastery increased by 20% this year. However, while we were making these great gains, we would still talk to students, we still talk to parents, and this was the face that they would make when we would talk to them. like, what are you talking about, math? Nah, I ain't doing no math, okay? And even at that, these were the faces that they would make, but these were the conversations that were had.
Just wait. Mila's math homework is what I did in calculus when I failed it the first time at school. And they don't do it the way. Good luck.
What do you mean they don't do it the way?
They don't do it the way we learned it.
What? How do they
remember
do it?
when you carried the one and all that? They don't carry no ones.
They don't?
They don't carry no ones anymore. I don't know why. Somebody thought, hey, let's mess with all the parents in the world and change the way we teach math. So even though the kids don't know how, the parents wouldn't know how to do it anyway, now they really don't know how to do it.
Oh my God, they don't carry the one?
No, they don't carry they don't carry no ones. They don't carry no ones.
Okay, that's good.
They don't carry anything. And long division, it ain't
They don't carry no ones. We got this new math out here. I don't know what these kids doing. And so those became conversations that we began having with parents, we began having with students, because they were viewing math differently than the way that we saw it. And so when we went back and talked with our teachers, we also saw that our teachers were still holding on to the information. They weren't willing to let go and allow the students to really dive in and take ownership inside the classroom. So we knew that we needed to go in and make some adjustments and make some changes to how we presented this information. So we said, you know what, let's do some different activities. So we had activities like this, where students got together with other teachers, and they actually were struggling at the time with fractions and decimals. So that 1/3 plus 1/8 plus 1/9 and all those different things, they were struggling with that. So what we did was we said, hey, let's get a recipe, which is where you're often gonna find 1/3 and 1/4. Let's get this recipe together. Let's make some Play-Doh. So students got together and we cleared out the cafeteria right after breakfast and said, hey, let's go for it. So students were starting to make Play-Doh. And what we found was that they were having a productive struggle. They were working through it, but when they came up against those things that gave them challenges, they were actually going through and solving the problems on their own. They were leaning over to their neighbor and saying, what do you think about this? And we started to see the academic discourse amongst our students within the classroom. It started to increase. And now we started to see the performance of the students get better because they felt more confident of what was going on in the class. But we didn't just want to say, oh, we think this was how students felt. We actually took time to actually survey the students to find out what was going on. 77% of our students stated that they felt like they fit inside the classroom, meaning that they were seen and that they were heard. And when we talk about teacher efficacy, we know that that is a huge mover, the relationship between the student and the teacher. And so 81% of the students said the teacher would notice if I was absent that day. But 94% of our students said they felt respected by their teacher. So we knew that we had something special here. Not only are we seeing the academic gains of our students, but we're also seeing a shift and a change inside of the classroom and the dynamic, the interaction between the student and the teacher. So we had to maximize on this. So how can we make this sustainable? You know, we didn't want to just come up with something, oh, this was great for the 23-24 school year. How can we make this something that could carry forth for years to come? So we decided that we were going to make a change. But before we do that, I want to let you hear from my kids.
In 8th grade, I was pretty comfortable with math, except like the end of 8th grade, like that. Those topics were a little difficult for me, but I ended up doing it, but it just took me a while to catch up and understand. It's helped us because it's like, well, the beginning of the year is pre-algebra and we're learning all the concepts and stuff just with smaller numbers so that we can be able to do it with even bigger numbers eventually. So I think it's a good start, and I think algebra is really helpful for us. Last semester we had like a project out of like we had to build a city out of like shapes and stuff. So I think that was like cool, and I think that was fun. Packet recently. I think that's what I enjoy most about her, like the effort that she puts in for us to learn. I feel pretty confident because it's a pretty good atmosphere, and normally like the stuff we do like that day like just bounces right off the stuff that we did the day before, unless we're starting something new. And like all of it is like all of the content stuff like just flows together.
So armed with this, we said we got to move. We can't wait. So normally we have our freshman orientation and acclimation at the beginning of the academic school year. So for this year it would have been in August. But we said, no, we got to make a change. So we wanted to capitalize on all this forward momentum we had. So shout out to Gretchen. She helped me out, come up with this idea and these concepts. So we said right at the end of the year, let's bring our incoming 8th grade students on campus earlier. So normally we have 30 families that will come for our freshman acclimation. This year we had over 100 families coming for our freshman acclimation. And when parents got there, they had the opportunity to be engaged and talk with our teacher and talk with me about the importance of math and other topics that would be relevant for them. But what was so powerful this year was that not only was it me and the teacher, but it was also our students. We had seniors, we had recent graduates, we had sophomores who literally just finished the Algebra 1 class, talking to families and letting them know what they can expect going forward. And we had an opportunity to ask parents how do they feel about participating in this process. And parents told us they now feel more confident assisting their student. They also were more aware of the research or the things that we were doing on campus, those things that we had to be a support. But more importantly, they knew the connection between Algebra 1 and what their student would be doing going forward. So again, we were posed the question, how are the children? And the children are well, because we're doing everything we can with the support of TNTP and all of you guys in this room to help us achieve our goals. But we also know that that's possible because we're going to hold their hand, just like my mom did on the elevator, to give them the support that they need. Thank you.